Well, the kind of board chapter work session, 5 o'clock, it's here.
You got your mic on? Welcome. The Camden County Board of Commissioners work session today at 5 o'clock. It appears Ms. Gonzalez has prepared us a movie.
Yes, sir. I have prepared, it's an overview of our hotel motel tax, where the county is, and really looking for guidance on where we want to go with it in the future.
Well,
So-
you're in luck, we're full of guidance.
Pardon?
You're in luck, we're full of guidance.
I got it. So when you stay at a hotel, you pay your just regular sales tax, which includes the state tax, lost, et cetera. But when you stay at a hotel, you also pay a special hotel motel. Some people refer to it as a bed tax, which ranges from 2 to 8% on the base price of the hotel. And then you also pay a flat $5 fee. The $5 fee goes directly to the state, and the local hotel motel, the 2 to 8%, comes to the county. And what we collect the taxes on are either hotel, motel, inn, lodges, tourist camp, tourist cabins, campgrounds, and any other place in which rooms, lodgings, or accommodations are regularly furnished for value. So in the unincorporated district of Camden County, we have the Georgia Episcopal Camp, which is Honey Creek, Grayfield Inn, the St. Mary's KOA, and Sea Island. And also back in 2021, we started collecting from Airbnb, Home Away, Hotel Tonight, et cetera, which is the marketplace facilitators. And you could see by revenue analysis over the past 10 years, since that was incorporated in 2021, we've really significantly increased our revenue. So the revenue in fiscal year 21 was, catch up with myself here, because I cannot read it from here. So the fiscal year 21, it was 72,000, and the current fiscal year, which just ended, is $97,000 collected. And you can see if you go back 10 years, 25, 26,000. I believe it really took a jump when we started collecting on the KOA in St. Mary's, and of course, again, with the marketplace facilitators. And these are the current authorization paragraphs, which are in the hotel motel statute. And each one has particular and specific stipulations with it. One of them is from 1 to 3% collections, 5% collections. And then if we are collecting 6 to 8%, that needs and requires an act of the General Assembly. So this is from 2020, so I don't think it's, it may not be completely up to date, but it gives you a general idea of in the state of Georgia, how many governments are collecting particular rates. So currently we're in the 3%, so there's 21 other governments charging a 3% tax, but you could see that most and the majority of other governments are charging much more than 3%. And this is, you actually have in front of you, this is a list of all the governments in the state of Georgia and what their tax rate is and what they've collected over the last 4 years. But just as an example, Camden counties are 3%. In fiscal year 21, we collected the 72,000. Kingsland charges 6%, and they've collected almost 1.2 million in fiscal year 21. St. Mary's 6%, and they collected 177,000. Woodbine is 3%, and they collected just over 1,000. Glynn County is 5%, and they collected just over 8.6 million. And Liberty County is 5% at 112,000. So the way our ordinance is written right now, as I said, we collect 3% tax It's restricted funding according to our ordinance, and it's restricted for what's called TCT, which is tourism, conventions, and trade shows. It has to be spent on some type of TCT. And no money should go to the general fund. And an amendment in 1984 just changed the date that the taxes were due. The ordinance actually went into effect in 1983. And just a general overview of the definitions. I already mentioned the TCT. So that's really planning, conducting, or participating in programs of information and publicity, really just advertising for your county. TPD is tourism product development. That's more of creation and expansion of actual attractions. A DMO is a designated marketing organization, and for us, that would be our Chamber of Commerce. And a CVB is a Convention Visitors Bureau, and for us, that would be St. Mary's and Kingsland Convention and Visitors Bureau. So just as an overview, what happens with us is our revenues, the county collects the 3%. So the Airbnbs and the 4 hotels and the unincorporated remit the tax directly to the finance department and the county. And we pass that through to the DMO and the CVBs, and they're responsible for marketing tourism in the area. Up until June of 2017, St. Mary's was the only recipient of that tax. So we would receive it and we would pass 100% through to the St. Mary's Convention and Visitors Bureau. I could confirm that back to 2003, we were doing that. My records, I don't have records prior to that I could really check. So I'm making the assumption that that's probably what we did.
2003?
2003, my records.
It is.
Okay, yeah.
I
So
was there.
you were there. Got it. So 5 years ago, we began distributing that same tax to St. Mary's Convention Center, Visitors Bureau, Kingsland's Visitors Bureau, and the Chamber of Commerce. And currently, if we don't change the ordinance, we have to continue doing that. We have to pass it either to the DMO or CVBs, exactly the way it's going, or some other combination of that. But once you start it, if you don't change the paragraph that you're collecting under, you have to have it remain. So if we do move to another tax rate, the ordinance can be rewritten or amended, and distributions can be reset at that point. So we could decide at that point, well, maybe the general fund gets some money and the rest goes to the CVBs and the DMO. Whatever.
You say the general fund gets the money, you're talking about the original 3%.
Yes, and I've got.
Listen, either way, the 3% that we're currently sending out, as you stated, where to, that has to stand? Whether we change it?
If we do not change the tax rate, if we leave it at 3%, it has to be distributed the way it has been distributed. We can't.
And if we change the tax rate, what happens?
Then we have other choices, which I'll show you.
Okay.
Okay. So when and if a change is made, it would go into effect no sooner than the first day of the second month. So right now, if something was changed in September, it would go into effect in November. And as I stated, each percentage of tax has certain rules on the distribution and use. So this is where we are now. When this was originally set up, it could have been that the general fund received that 3%. But the way it was set up is that it was distributed to a TCT, and that has to remain. And right now, we're estimating our revenue at about 100,000, and that all gets passed through. If we go to 5%, this paragraph mandates that up to 60% of that tax can go to the general fund. And really that's 60% of the 5% is the 3%. So we could, up to 3%, we could keep for the general fund, and then distribute at least 40% to the TCTs and DMO. So that would be 2%. It could be any combination of that, though. If we decided to do the 5%, we could keep the 2 pennies and continue to pass the 3 pennies on to them, which is what we're currently doing. So they would feel no difference on how that was distributed.
For the 2%, though, based on what you're saying there, we'd get about how much additional?
Well, the entire revenue at 5% is $167,000.
Currently getting about 72.
Well, this year I'm expecting 100, but yeah.
Okay, so it'd be another 60, 70,000.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
2%.
Yes. So really 33,000 for each percent of tax. So if we were to go with this paragraph, which is 6%, this does require General Assembly action. So that would need to go through the General Assembly. And at 6%, 50% could be retained by the general fund or pass through to the general fund, I should say. And 50% could continue to be distributed to exactly the way it is now.
You're gonna get into what it takes to do, go into the General Assembly. Obviously, we have to drop a home rule bill or something.
Yes, it would require a new ordinance and then also something written that would go and pass through the General Assembly. So
The presumption being that should we do that, it's usually something that's passed in the Assembly. If I'm not mistaken.
in speaking with DCA, they've indicated to me that it's never been a problem passing something like that through. It's a pretty
A home
easy.
rule type thing.
Yeah.
It's us doing something for us.
We would work with our local, like
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Mr. Sands, we would work with him and prepare something for the General Assembly.
And that would be to get the extra 1%.
That would, yes, so that we could be collecting 6% tax. And I should mention, that's what St. Mary's and Kingsland are collecting, 6%. At 7%, general fund could receive 43% of it, but again, it's 3%, it's 3 pennies. But it just kind of, as it ramps up in the percentage of tax, the amount that gets allocated, everything's percentage-wise, we still end up with 3 pennies. You still got 3 cents. And then 4 cents would go to the TCTs and DMO.
The TCT.
TCT, Tourism Convention Trade Shows. That would be City of St. Mary's, or not City of St. Mary's and Kingsland Convention Bureau, and the Chamber of Commerce is the DMO.
So
Chamber of Commerce is the DMO, which is.
The original 3% would go to those.
Yes, yes.
And so then the additional 3 or 4 or whatever we went to.
The general fund could always get up to 3 cents. That doesn't change. Because if you look at, going back to the original.
Maybe I'm stupid, which is.
No.
I'm trying to understand specifically the 3% we're currently at, and I know where it's going. We go to 5%. The 3% is still going. The same people essentially, unless we switch it around.
Well, that would have to be determined. If we went up to 5%, the board could decide that we keep 2 pennies and the 3 pennies still continue to
That's
go
what I'm saying.
and distributed as is.
Or
general fund could receive 3 cents and then only 2% would go, or 2 pennies for every dollar would go.
So, let me back up and ask maybe a little more specific. If we move from where we are now,
Mm-hmm.
what flexibility do we have in saying it goes to the general fund or not? You're saying we could put 3 in the general fund, it goes out to these folks,
Right.
and we keep the 2% in the general fund?
With 5%, you have the option, because at 5%, it's up to 60% could go to the general fund. So 1% could, 2%, or 3% can. Each of these paragraphs are very specific on how they're written. So with the 5% one, up to 60% of the tax collected, which means 3 cents for every dollar, could go to the general fund. It doesn't have to, though. the board could decide the entire 5% gets distributed to the bureaus and the Chamber of Commerce.
Should the entire 5% go to the general fund?
No, up to 60% collected, which is 3 pennies.
Okay.
Okay, so at the 6, 7, and 8%, it all comes back to that 3 pennies. 3% could come to the general fund, and the balance gets kicked over to the TCTs and DMO. So again, at 6%, general fund could take 3%, and 3% then goes to the visitors bureaus and the Chamber of Commerce. At 7%, general fund could keep the 3 cents, and 4% would go to the chamber and the convention centers. And at 8%, the same thing. 5% would go and be distributed to the TCTs, and general fund could keep 3%. So at 6%, say, it's a 50-50 split. So we would each be receiving $100,000. Hotel motel tax fund could transfer over to the general fund, $100,000, and $100,000 continues to be distributed as it currently is.
That would be the best we could do for the general fund.
The best we could ever do for the general fund is 3%. So, but if you, pardon?
I was just gonna say, if this is the rate has changed, would this be an immediate impact, or would this be for next?
It'd be the second month. We did in September, we
If-
November.
If it's 5%, it could be as soon as November.
Okay, if it's 6 or higher.
If it's 6%, it goes through General Assembly, so you're probably looking at maybe June or July that we could actually, like, say they passed it in May, it would go into
It
effect in
depends on when
July.
they push it through.
Correct. So then each, like 7%, 8%. I just had asked the visitors bureaus and the chamber to send me just examples of some of the advertising that they've been doing. This is from St. Mary's Convention and Visitors Bureau. This is something that's listed on the AAA Living digital banner. This is another one from St. Mary's. These are some publications from Kingsland.
Let me ask you a different question, Nancy.
Mhm.
I like the picture, but
I know.
what I want to understand, let me ask you this. Obviously, we'd say, we don't want to sit here and say, we're going to 6%. We're going to be next June or July trying to get in there. Could we do this? Or can we do this? Can we say, let's adopt the 5% rate, put it in effect, what month we in August? Or our next meeting in September, be effective November, and then put the legislation forward to go to 6%.
Yes.
And in the interim, we're collecting the 5%.
And that is an option. Here I've just summarized
Oh, you
all of
did?
our choices. And number 6, it would be a hybrid combination, where exactly what you're saying, that we would start at 5% now, and that would be effective the beginning of November. We would give notice to all
Okay.
the, and then at that point, start the process. And however quickly it would go through, and then it would become effective the second month after it's passed.
Be patient, Grasshopper, I'm getting there.
We're there now. We're there.
There we are.
There we are. So those are really just a summary of the choices.
So we're gonna make a move, essentially. The only logical play we have is go to 5%. Beyond that, we put in the legislation, get the 5% turned on. Otherwise, we're losing 2% between now and we're losing eight months of 2%. That's silly.
And if we went to 5%, I would need direction on what the general fund would want. Would it want the full 3 cents? Or would it want 2% and then leave that 3% to be distributed to the TCTs and the DMO as they are now?
Well, obviously, just flat out, I'm in favor of going to 5. I'm in favor of going to 6. I'm not gonna be here when we get 6. So you're looking at 3 of them that will, so they may wanna figure out, in the legislation upcoming, of what would happen with that extra penny. If we do the legislation, go to 6 or 7 or whatever it is.
But it would be a choice at 5%, which we could do in November.
The 5%, we would decide now.
That would have to be decided now. Do we collect that full 60%?
If we decide to
Correct,
act on it, so we're not
correct.
acting on it right this minute, so.
Can you go back to one of those first slides that kind of showed the full breakdown of all the percentages were in addition to the,
This, the last slide I had?
one of the first.
Oh,
It
Not that
showed
one.
The entire, like what the state gets, what.
oh, yes, yeah.
Even state employees had to pay the $5. Feel that, like, DOT or anybody else. they pay
County-
$5.
County travel has to pay it too.
Nobody's exempt from that.
We could be exempt from the others, but not the $5.
So you're exempt from the sales tax. What about the hotel motel taxes?
We're exempt for everything except the $5.
$5 is mandatory, you won't pay that, everybody.
Well, I was up there making big rules. I get it. They don't want their money turned off in any shape, form, or fashion.
Correct.
Is that what you were interested in? Okay. So essentially at this point, if we desire to leave it at, if we desire to keep the 3% allocations as we have them, all we would need to tell you is that we want 2% going to general fund.
Correct.
We don't have to designate what it's going to in that fund as of yet.
It could be used for any general fund
It goes
purposes.
into
It's
general-
unrestricted general fund money.
Okay. Now, and of course, at any given time, should the board desire, they can be amended.
If it's left at 5%, and
Yeah.
the decision was made that 2% would go to the general fund and 3% would go to the
I'm just
chamber,
saying the 2%.
that could not be changed.
The
Once-
2% that's going to the general fund, it could be allocated within the general fund to go somewhere.
Yes,
That's-
Yes.
That was my point.
yes, yes.
Maybe to be a little clearer.
We could transfer it out, we could,
Exactly.
Correct.
Okay. I'm just thinking about the helicopter. Kid. Somebody will think it's real. All right, I understand. I mean, it's pretty straightforward, really.
Mhm.
Anybody got any questions for Nancy?
Now, the contracts with St. Mary's, Kingsland, and the Chamber would have renewed, or normally I would have brought them to you the beginning of July, but this was kind of a pending issue. So
I understand.
those have to either be established again.
Let me ask you this. Where's the money going now for July, August? You still honoring?
We distribute it quarterly, so right now we're holding on to it.
Okay, so okay, we can, well, in
We would normally,
September,
we would distribute that maybe mid-October.
Are those annual contracts right now?
Yes. And the suggestion was made from Kingsland that they become just auto renewals unless terminated within 6 months of the notice. That was just a suggestion because every year we do have to go through
Reaffirm.
this. Reaffirm,
now,
correct.
if it were for longer than a year, would we have to reaffirm it?
I don't think we could contract more than a year at a
That's
time.
my point.
Mhm.
So,
But it could auto renew, it could just, an automatic renewal.
but we still have to reaffirm it.
Yes, but I believe all the contracts are reaffirmed at one meeting. That would
I
really be it.
understand, but my point is, it's really not, if we say we're gonna do it for 3 years, it's not an automatic 3
Yeah.
years. Every year you still,
funding is never guaranteed until the contract is reaffirmed.
That's what I'm saying. You still gotta,
Correct.
you still gotta bless it
Mhm.
every year.
Yes.
You know, come January, board can say, no, we don't want to do it.
Mhm.
Whether you,
But they couldn't,
whether you put in the contract, we're gonna fill out the contract now, the 3% is going as it is now, and it's gonna auto renew for the next 3 years. We can do that. And, I mean, I understand they're wanting to do it that way, it gives them better budgeting and, you know, revenue and stream planning and expenditure. I get all that. But regardless, it still has to be affirmed every year.
and once it's established, it can't be changed unless the rate is changed. So in effect, you really are guaranteeing that funding unless you change the rate, because it
Well,
has,
there you are.
it has to go, it doesn't have to be distributed like we're doing it, but it has to be distributed to some TCT.
Well, they
Either.
have, then in effect, they have their auto renewal. And the fact that if we go to 5 now, we set that up, it's, as long as it stays at 5, the 3% is going. Now, does that 3% have to go out, or can you change who else? So we want to give more or less to St. Mary's, or more or less to Kingston, or more, can you maneuver within those? And
My understanding, but I'd want to confirm with DCA, is that you can distribute it the way you would want to. You could change that,
you can change the recipients,
you could change the
but
recipients.
the 3% is still going out.
Correct,
Okay.
correct.
So there again, it's not set, and I think maybe that's why they were asking for a, protracted promise,
Mhm.
sort of. Not a biggie.
Do we have a intergovernmental agreement with them on this, or is it some other type of contract?
It's, geez, I don't know if it's really an IGA or an MOU. I think it's an IGA.
It's an MOU.
It's
MOU,
an
I
MOU.
think.
Okay, well,
But
there
if
you go.
change it to an intergovernmental agreement, then you could go, some even vote for 50 years, and you probably want to do that, but they can be longer.
Everybody agree on that? Katie says if we go to intergovernmental agreement, it can go longer than a year
With a city,
with the cities.
yes.
So with the city of St. Mary's and the city of Kingsland, we can make it as long as we want, up to
You could
50.
do it. I've seen that
But these,
before, 50 years.
these are not the city of St. Mary's. It's St. Mary's.
Well,
It's an,
even though it's
I believe it's an authority.
Would it not be considered an entity within the city of St. Mary's and Kingsland?
Yeah, that would be a John Myers.
Okay, well, I think we all, the more we chitter chatter about it, the more we understand the question. I've been around long enough to know if you don't ask the right question, you'll never get the correct answer, so now that it depending upon the type of agreement we draft, it's renewing and longevity, sir.
Chairman. So we don't have this, we don't have any of these, organizations within the county, right?
Correct. We do not.
We don't have a tourism or visitors,
That's one of them. Okay.
which is why we're doing what we're doing. Now, I guess we could,
Well, that was a Gary question. I wanted to, I need an answer, but I wanted to make sure.
want everybody to know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Now, I've got some thoughts, which I'll share with you guys, but we'll talk about it. And we'll just plan on bringing it back. We'll try to get to an agreement on what we're gonna do here for September. I think it's pretty well in agreement. I think pretty much everyone's in agreement. They're wanting to go to 5. Is everybody in agreement? You know, that we should start moving toward that direction? Didn't they? Everybody?
Yeah.
Got a consensus? Okay, so, we're gonna move to 5. Then the 2% and the allocations will be something we work on a little bit. And then the subsequent legislation drop to go to 6 or 7 or whatever anyone desires to do. I don't have a problem going to 7% personally. We're not impacting our local people so much. My daughter is either have been tardy or late. High school. But I'll turn it off. Huh? She's a blunt. They're both in play. But anyway, you know, for your purposes, we're planning to go to 5. You know, and I would say at this point, 2% is going to the general fund.
Okay.
The 3% allocation, you know, contingently is gonna sit where it is. But we'll talk. So for everyone's planning, this, is anyone desiring to alter the allocation of the 3% prospectively? Other than where it currently is?
Not at this time.
Okay, so just pencil it in. The 3% stands, the 2% new, those are general fund, and then we'll talk about what we're gonna do with that.
Okay.
And that gives those guys something to kind of contingently plan for.
Mhm.
And also, I will throw out there, as far as I'm concerned, I would not any of them count on getting more than the 3% they're getting. Or whatever percent they're getting, the 1%, however it's being allocated between the 3 entities.
If we move to anything higher than 6%, like if we move to that 7%,
So that's different.
they would have to get more.
I understand, but
Okay.
it's 60-60.
Okay.
I keep thinking I've turned everything off, but I didn't turn my watch off. Yeah, at 6%, we're 50-50.
Correct.
They're still at 3.
Mhm.
You know, we're still the same.
Yes.
You know, if they want to go up to 7, like I said, you know, I guess we could have the legislation drafted between now and the first of the year, get it ready, but it would still be the board in place at that point in time to present it to the local legislation to get it done, so that remains to be seen, so. Right now, we're tentatively looking at 5.
Not knocking the cities, but 3% is a pretty good gift that we're giving it to the cities and the chamber, so.
It is.
And I think, a 50-50 split at 6 would be gracious.
Yeah, I mean, it is. All right, what else we got on this work session?
That's it?
Okay, no, nothing? It's over. Enjoyed it. to the August 16th Benton County Board of Commissioners regular meeting. I'd like to start with invocation from Commissioner Grant, followed by the pledge of allegiance, please.
Let us pray. Father God, we thank you for this day you have given us. Father, we come seeking wisdom and guidance as we go about doing the business of Camden County. For this we pray in your most glorious name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Everybody do what I didn't do in the work session. Turn your phones, your watches, and your computers and stuff like that off. Roll call, Ms. Bishop.
All commissioners are present.
Thank you. I see we have an agenda amendment to add item 7 and renumber according. Could I get a motion on that, please?
Make a motion to make an addition to the regular agenda, item 7, and renumber it to the agenda accordingly.
Second. We have a first and a second. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Got to get a motion now to adopt the agenda as amended.
Make a motion to adopt the agenda.
Second. We have a first and a second. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. The ones had an opportunity to review the minutes of the August 2nd public hearing and regular meeting. Are there any changes, corrections, additions, deletions? If not, could we get a motion?
Make a motion to adopt and approve the minutes for August 2nd, 2022 public hearing and regular meeting minutes.
Second.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. This brings us to our first presentation, and Mr. Yakabachi is going to do the intros and master of ceremonies.
Good evening, Commissioners, and thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you well know, we're updating our impact fee program for this year, and I've asked Mr. Bill Ross and Ms. Paige Hatley to come and do a brief summary and overview of what we will be attempting to do this year and achieving. So with that, I will turn it over to Mr. Bill Ross.
Thank you, Joey. Hello to all of you that I don't know yet. We've certainly had a long history with Camden County over the years, and I see some familiar faces here also. But I'll be very brief, very short, just an introduction of who we are and a general idea of the process that we'll be going through in updating your impact fee program. I'm going to talk about us, the connection between impact fees and planning, the impact fee program update and the process we'll be going through, and the schedule of what you can anticipate happening and when it might be happening. I'm Bill Ross, president of Ross Associates. Paige with Hatley Plans has been working with me and or I with her on a lot of projects. She's the second most knowledgeable person about impact fees in the state. Soon to be the first, I hope. And of course, Joey will be keeping track of us on a close basis to be sure our noses are to the ground grill. Of all of the impact fee programs that are active today, we have prepared 80% of those impact fees. Many of the others are actually water and sewer plans done by engineering companies for obviously water and sewer authorities. We provide continuing services, administrative advice. When this contract is over and you have adopted, if you care to, the new impact fee program, we stick with you. We're available by phone, by email. Ask us a question. There's no charge for this. I have found over the years, if I can solve a problem early, it doesn't become a bigger problem that we have to deal with later. We've done many annual CIE update reports. We've trained local governments how to do them themselves. Overall, we've had about 55 clients, which is the vast majority of all cities and counties that even looked at impact fees. And for those 55 clients, you, of course, being one of them, about 150 or more individual doing their plans, doing updates to the plans, doing annual updates, and that sort of thing. There have been 2 lawsuits regarding impact fees in the entire state of Georgia. One was in Cherokee County. It was the very first one. Second was in Newton County. Home builders, both of these are home builder associations that brought these lawsuits. These 2 counties won these suits hands down because they had everything they needed to show the court that they had done it right, and that there was no fooling going on with regard to their impact fees. The planning connection, you have a comprehensive plan. That comprehensive plan, something we will be preparing is called the Capital Improvements Program. That will be an amendment to your comprehensive plan. Doesn't have to be done at the same time as the comprehensive plan. And you don't really have to take the text and stick it in the comprehensive plan. It's just an amendment to it. The funding resources we'll be looking at, impact fees, various SPLOS programs, even tax generation and whatnot will be part of our study. And ultimately, of course, the impact fees themselves. How much could the county charge? And I'm going to emphasize that we calculate the maximum fee. We don't know what you want to adopt, but we know the law says you can't charge too much. So we calculate the maximum. You can't go over that. You can charge less. And I'll show you on the schedule, we will be working with you to figure out what you really do want to charge. Some communities charge 100% maximum, others charge less. It varies from city and county to county. Probably aimed it in the wrong direction.
Up high at on the ceiling.
Oh,
Guess what you
well,
working before.
did I turn it off accidentally? Oh, there we go. So the amendment process, we'll be working with staff, working with the departments, working through Joey to identify the capital projects that you have now, projects that are underway, and proposed projects. And we'll be looking at roads and streets and bridges category, parks and recreation, the sheriff's office, including the jail, fire protection, emergency medical, and animal control, as well as the county library. These are, animal control is new for you. It's a new category that the state has now allowed to be in impact fee programs. The rest of these are basically what you're charging for today. And the projects that can be in the impact fee program and charge impact fees to pay for have to have a useful life of at least 10 years. Fire trucks last 10 years. Sheriff's patrol cars generally don't. So it varies on computers. Allegedly don't, my computer's probably about 12 years old, but at any rate, computers allegedly don't last 10 years. But of course your E911 system does. So it would vary, but that's the basic rules. That'll have a useful life of 10 years to be in the impact fee program. So the amendment process, we identify all capital projects. What have you got now? What new projects are underway? What's proposed already or needs that are recognized? We work closely with staff on identifying all of this, as well as, of course, the county records of capital projects that you've already purchased and how much you paid for them. We create forecasts out to 2045, out to 2045, population forecast, housing, employment, tax base, These forecasts look at the cities as well as the unincorporated area, because we need to look at the total county in the process. It's kind of like the way you carve a statue of an elephant. You take a big block of marble and you chip away everything that doesn't look like an elephant. That's what we're doing here. We're going to be chipping away everything that cannot ultimately be in the impact fee program. There'll be a schedule of projects that you'll need in the future to maintain the level of service you have now, so that services do not degrade as new development occurs and more demands are made for public services. We'll look at project costs. We'll look at financing strategies. We may look at how SPLOST or other funding approaches can be working with the impact fees, if any. You'll have a public hearing and regional and DCA review of this capital improvements element, the CIE. And just as every year you send in an annual update report, you have a public hearing, you authorize it, you submit it, and the annual update goes into the region and then the state. Same kind of process on the capital improvements element for the impact fees. And ultimately, if things work out as we hope they will, we will be through the CIE amendment process and developing amendments to your impact fee ordinance simultaneously so that they come together. And if everything works out right, then you can adopt both the CIE and the new amended impact fee ordinance with the new fee schedule at that time. This is a brief summary of the whole process up there at the top. We're working on the methodology report right now that has everything in it that you would ever want to know about impact fees. Capital improvements element, CIE comes out of that. It goes in to the region and for regional and state review. That's a 60-day process. And while that's going on, we will develop the amendments that will be necessary to your ordinance. There have been changes in the state impact fee law over the years. So we'll bring your ordinance up to date, and we'll be working directly with you to talk about, okay, we told you in the methodology report the maximum fees. Now, what do you really want to charge? And there we'll have Excel programs to help with that discussion and whatnot. But once we know the fee schedule that goes into the ordinance, then you're ready to adopt that ordinance. We'll also, that bottom line, we'll be working with staff to talk about the procedures for collecting. You're doing impact fees right now. We will take a look at your procedures and might make some recommendations or not, or just stand in awe. We will develop an administrative handbook, so we'll have on paper. If the administrator gets an appeal, what happens? The procedures and processes involved in administering the impact fee program. And then, as I said, if the review of the CIE and the impact fee ordinance, you'll have to have 2 public hearings on the ordinance. If those things come together, hopefully, you'll be able to adopt both of those, the ordinance and the CIE, at the same meeting. You don't have to do it that way. We try to schedule it that way. If the CIE is done early, you can adopt it then. If the ordinance is done early, you can't adopt it until the CIE is adopted. So that's the chain of events, if you will. Another diagram basically says the same thing. This upper left-hand square is the methodology report. We have forecasts of future growth projects that will be needed to serve that future growth at the same level of service you have now, and those maximum impact fees that we will include in there. The capital improvements element, the upper right-hand square, Much of that is drawn from the methodology report. We do not include the impact fee schedules in there because DCA doesn't care to be involved in those at all. They don't require that be in that report. But it will have a community improvement program for the impact fees for 5 years. You do community improvement elements for your comprehensive plan every 5 or 6 years when you adopt the comprehensive plan. This will be a scaled down version of just the impact fee projects for what are you going to be doing for the coming 5 years. And that goes in for regional review. And as I said, hopefully these things will augur together. We'll be able to adopt the ordinance with the fee schedule that you want to adopt and adopt the CIE at the same time. And you can implement the new program right then. You could put it off. You could say, well, let's start in 6 months. And again, it's up to you when we talk to the ordinance about when you want to actually get it started. A bar chart, that's basically a 9-month process. We've already started on it in a way we're a little bit ahead of the game, if you will. So we treat these schedules as a no later than schedule. Wherever we can save time, wherever we can accelerate things, we will do it. We won't sit around and say, well, we don't need to do that until next month. If we can move ahead. And you can see the little red stars are meetings and public hearings by you as the program goes forward. You'll be looking at the draft of the methodology report, and based on your comments, then we finalize it. You'll be involved in this capital improvements element with the public hearing to send it into the state, and then we will have basically monthly meetings to look at the ordinance, settle on what the impact fees need to be. And then you have to have 2 public hearings on the ordinance, schedule those in there so that, like I say, after 60 days, you hear from the state on the CIE, you should also be in a position to adopt the impact fee ordinance with whatever fees that you wish to charge. That's the grand total of our schedule and what we're doing and what to be expecting from us. We had a very productive meeting earlier this afternoon with staff to talk about what we'll be needing from them in terms of inventories, any plans that they already have that the commission has adopted, any other studies or requirements that they have, so that we can start working on that methodology report and getting that put together as quickly as possible. Mr. Chairman, I have babbled on. Any questions that you may have?
Not yet. I reserve the right to come back later, but
Yeah, sure.
no, I understand. And you've met at this point with Joey and other staff?
Yeah.
And according to your timetable, we'll start getting into the weeds of it, and I'm sure that we'll find something to inquire about. Otherwise, appreciate you coming up.
Sure.
Making your presentation. And we look forward to working with you and see what we come up with.
Thank you. And I told Paige I wasn't going to make her speak so that I could talk fast and we could get out of here.
You'll hear from me later at your meetings.
Well, she is more than welcome to make her a pitch if she'd like to as well, but I think you probably covered it.
That
And like I
is-
said, once we get down in the weeds of it, start working at it, then there'll be some questions.
Great. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, this brings us to our first public comment section. Does anyone register?
Yes, sir, Mr. Rick Manning.
Well, the clock for 3 minutes, Mr. Manning.
All right, I'm Rick Manning from Bullhead Bluff. I would like to address the agenda item you have, executive session for real estate. Doesn't tell us what real estate you're going to even discuss. I mean, would anybody like to elaborate, or do we have to guess? What I thought. So you got 72% of the folks out here that obviously is gonna guess you're back there discussing the Union Carbide property again. That 72% voted not even discuss or have anything to do with a purchase. So I was asked to read a statement for y'all. It's short and sweet, but anyways, whoever wrote this, 246 years ago, the people rose up against a government that did not represent the people. By the grace of God, they prevailed, and an independent country and government was formed, ran by and for the people. Now, here in Camden County, 246 years later, here we are with the same type of tyrannical government. Each of you were voted for to represent the people, not to represent the wishes and dreams of a county administrator and his consultant friends. 5 months ago, 72% of the voters voted, and yet here you are spending wheelbarrow loads of the people's money to overrule the vote and sue the carbide to purchase the property. You are not representing the people. You are, in fact, using the people's money to misrepresent them. With that said, we the people request that you approve the people's funds to cover any and all costs to have an attorney and a citizen chosen by the people to be at any and all legal proceedings pertaining to the March 8th vote and the UCC land dealings. We would like this put on the next agenda meeting and voted on in a public forum so that people are represented. There will be a formal request sent to the commissioners in writing. Thank you.
Mr. Manning, could I get a copy of that before you leave?
No, you got a copy, it's on video. I didn't write it, I read it. I'll give it back to the person who wrote it.
Thank you, sir. Over your skis as usual. Anyone else registered?
No.
Anyone would like to partake unregistered? Seeing none, we're going to move into our regular agenda. Ms. Gonzalez, you're up.
Good evening, Chairman and Commissioners. This agenda item is certification of the local option sales tax distribution for 2023 through 2032. The law requires that counties and cities periodically negotiate this distribution. And this renegotiation must have taken place in 21-22 calendar year and commence before July 1st. Our first meeting was in June, and we had 2 additional public meetings on July 12th and 26th. On the July 26th meeting, it was agreed what the county will receive as a distribution, which will be in years 1 through 6. Camden County will receive 46% of the local option sales tax. In years 7 and 8, Camden County will receive 47%. And in years 9 and 10, Camden will receive 48%. And then on August 2nd, Mayor Grayson Day, on behalf of the other cities, sent us a letter with the agreed upon distribution for the cities. So you have attached the certificate of distribution, and after, and if it is approved tonight, we would also get the signatures and have it fully executed by the mayors of the cities.
Thank you. Yep. Miraculously, it was done in 2 meetings.
3.
Oh, 3.
3.
Must have slipped through one. Nonetheless, did get it done in 3 meetings then. And with the cities working together amongst themselves to decide the allocations that were not going to the county, we felt like they had been working together all along, and it was not in conflict with the state. And so the allocations between the cities were mutually agreed upon by those 3. And with that being said, that's the certificate that you, or the certificate you have now that's prepared. So could we get a motion on the approval of that lost allocation certificate?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor? All those opposed? It's a 3-2, motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Gonzalez. So you're going to do
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
The next agenda item is requesting your approval to award county banking services to Synovus Bank. Our current bank is Southeastern, and just through growth and other banking needs that Southeastern Bank is unable to provide, we put out an RFP in June, and we received 2 bids on it the end of July, which was Ameris Bank and Synovus Bank. And both are very good banks, and it was a difficult decision, but we have made the decision that Synovus Bank was determined to be the most advantageous to the county. And also Synovus is a participating bank in the Georgia Secure Deposit Program, which meets all the collateralization requirements for safeguarding public funds. So
Exactly.
we're requesting your approval of that change.
Could I get a motion on that item?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Any questions or? All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Who's doing the equitable sharing agreement? Nonetheless, we've got the up for the item 3 is the federal equitable sharing agreement, something we do every year. Monies they spend, it's part of our audit process. Who was it reviewed it in the accounting? Janice. Janice has reviewed it. She finds no exceptions. So we will, part of the requirement is that the board of commissioners sign off on it and it goes on. So with that being said, no exceptions from our accounting department. Going to get a motion on that item.
Motion to approve item number 3.
Second.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Ms. Hagler.
Good evening, Commissioners. I am requesting that the board approve a $7,050 grant from the Georgia EMS Association. Camden County Fire Rescue will use this funding for 18 recruits to complete EMT training. The cost of the instructor, tuition, books, education materials will all be covered by this grant. At this time, I would like approval to accept the grant award as presented.
You heard Ms. Hagler. Could we get a motion on that, please?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor? Carries unanimously. It appears everyone's in agreement with you, Ms. Hagler.
Thanks.
Thank you.
You may do my second item before the picture?
I'm sorry?
Should I do my second item before we take?
Yeah, go ahead and do both of them.
Okay. I'm requesting that the board accept the deed from Southeast Georgia Health System. This land was donated for the purpose of building the new health department. The land is located across the street from the hospital at 101 Winding Road in Kingsland. At this time, I would like approval to accept this deed as presented.
You just heard her. I will add to that, that this has been in, this whole process has been in the works for years. And, funding, there's been a lot of hoops to jump through. Ms. Hagler receiving, getting the grant, CDBG grant, the ARPA monies, a lot of things have come together to bring this to fruition. And we now have real estate for this facility to go on. I think the monies all have to be spent by 23.
Correct.
December 23. So with that being said, we should have a new functioning health department by December of 23. I will add that, when looking for land, we've looked at everything the county had, St. Mary's had, even Kingsland, we had one private landowner. I think Mr. Gross offered land out near the technical college, which was gracious. But had an opportunity to go to the hospital as they had the land that we're now receiving the deed to that they weren't using. And all along, we wanted to have the health system in that area of the hospital. And we just felt like it was much more complementary to one another. And they as well did too. And they had no plans for that land at the moment. And it wasn't interfering with their future plans of expansion. And so I will add that, Mayor Morrissey and I went and met with the folks here in Camden, the board, and we went up and met with Scott Raines up in Brunswick. I guess he's the CEO or anyway, and they were all on board. Oddly enough, it takes a long time to get free land. Getting all the paperwork filled out. We finally getting it done now. And of course, this is all part of our grant monies and other monies that we're using. This was all part of that program. So that's a good thing. So I'd like to make a motion that we accept this deed for the land donation, gracious land donation from Southeast Georgia Health System to Camden County. Can I get a second?
Second.
We have a first and a second. Can I get a vote? We have a unanimous vote. Thank you, Ms. Hagler. Mr. Zink. Oh, that's right. We're gonna do pictures. What's wrong?
What's your name, museum, children, love?
Anything more to do with rooms on charge for? Mr. Zink.
Good evening, Chairman, Commissioners. My first item for tonight is a request to approval to purchase and install a security system for the government service complex. For this item, we put an RFP out. We've got 2 bids. IDS was determined to be the lowest and most responsive and responsible bidder. We've been talking some time about increasing the security in the government service building with the increased security threats. This will allow us to install a new camera monitoring system, panic button system with a Linux system integrated with upgraded access points for both our citizens and our county employees. So I bring to you a request for approval to purchase and install a security system.
And I would like to add to that, we talk about the bid, we get most government project, the joke is, it was built by the lowest bidder. But, it's a little more involved than that. The analyses of the vendor, their ability to do the work, the equipment that's being used, and all of those things fell into that place. He had what we wanted, when we wanted it. He became the lowest bidder and left money on the table. Too bad. Our benefit, so any event. And it's something that as time moves on, we've had an increasing need for just events. So nonetheless, could I get a motion on this?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously.
All right, gentlemen, my second item for tonight is approval to authorize AGS Solutions change order to repair the parking lot area of Fire Station 16. We got 3 bids originally for this repair. Is where the Fire Station 16 parking lot sunk in about 4 to 5 inches over the course of many years. It precluded the tanker from driving behind the fire station, and they only could use the front entrance and couldn't pull through. During the deconstruction of the parking lot, it was noted that we were going to need, instead of a 6-inch pad, an 8-inch pad poured behind the fire station at approximately 1,800 square foot. And also there was additional base that was going to have to be added in the back. We did, or the AGS did 5 loads of mucking and set aside good dirt that they found back there. They also put a minimum of 8-inch base to minimize and a minimum of 8-inch
larger in some areas where they had to muck out additional material so that there was a solid base to put back in another 8-inch concrete slab. The differences between the initial bid and the change order was in the concrete, the amount of concrete that needed to be poured, and the demolition of the concrete from what the initial estimate of 6 inches of concrete to the final estimate, or the actual of 8 inches concrete.
Earlier today, I was picking at Matt Obert in my simple math mind. But once it gets beyond that, I make up numbers. But in my simple mind, the original contract was 17,000, we're at 6 inches. So what is that per inch? Let's make it simple and go 6,000. We're removing and we're adding, but it's a little more to it than that. You know, at 6,000, if you were gonna do it at the same prices, I was thinking it should be closer to 23, 24. But there were some issues with the ground underneath, additional fill, additional gravel. So, but he's guaranteed it where it's not gonna settle.
Correct. And he's actually out there right now.
I hope everyone here remembers that winter if it does. But nonetheless, could we get a motion on this, please?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, sir. This takes us to Chief. Oh, okay, you're selling.
Good evening, Commissioners, and I appreciate y'all continues to try to help us improve the conditions around the firehouses there.
Well, we don't want to get up one day and one of your fire trucks is in a sinkhole behind you.
Yes, sir. Commissioner, I've come before you with the approval to sell the asset number 2839 Freightliner truck to the Nahunta Fire Department. In 2017, Camden County Fire Rescue purchased a military Freightliner truck, then converted to a tanker to serve the citizens of Camden County. It was outfitted by Georgia Forestry with a tank and a pump and served as a tanker within the county. This item will transfer with the sale. The cost of the purchase back then, in additional made by Georgia Forestry, was $42,000. The asset sale tanker has been purchased and now serves, a new tanker has been purchased and now serves the district up there in Tarboro. This will be a government-to-government sale. The Brantley County Board of Commissioners have approved this purchase. And this will have no negative impact on the firefighter capabilities of the county.
Do we know what they purchased it for?
$15,000.
Okay. Good enough. Anyone have any questions, thoughts? If not, could we get a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have us a first and a second. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. There you are gonna buy something.
Yeah, okay. Ready for the next one?
Yes, sir.
We also asking permission to move forward with a purchase from NAPCO Fire. We currently have an order from last year physical from 10/8 that has not been filled. Of course, you know, everything's slow with the purchase and everything. They're not expected to have the new bunker gear to next year, August the 28th of 2023. Due to expense and current issue, we're getting sizes for our firefighters in a timely manner. Our extra that we have in our warehouse is becoming limited due to size and aging. We have 23 sets approved in fiscal 23 budget. The new sale rep verified our needs and have 11 sets available for us to purchase now. So we asked them, can we go ahead and purchase this 11 so we can go ahead and get them in to our firefighters?
And this will be in the 23?
Yes, sir.
I don't see why not, Chief.
Thank you.
Could we get a motion, please?
Motion to approve.
Second.
I think Commissioner Reddick has a question.
Just a quick question.
Yes, sir.
When you order stuff like this, do we pay for it when we order it or when it comes in?
When it comes in, it comes in.
Yeah.
This is the same quality or better?
Yes, sir. Yes, about the same quality. Yes, sir.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
The calendar, Ms. Bishop. Thank you, Chief.
No changes at this time.
Our Chief. No changes?
Not at this time.
This brings us to our final public comment section. Any-
Jamie Everett.
Mr.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Janie Everett, and I live in Woodbine. I'd like to thank you all for letting me speak this evening. The I Call Memorial Project is now at the national level honoring the 600 THICAL workers and all of the responding emergency fire and police units in the hospitals. We presented our national park plan the last meeting. And in between that time, we went back and we checked the records, and we decided that since we hadn't heard from our elected state officials, that we would ask the commission, would they consider a resolution from Camden County? And I sent the emails out. There were 3 things that we were looking to accomplish with the resolution. We were asking our leadership here in the county to author that resolution. We strongly feel that charity and recognition begins at home. And we're at the national level. We have done some things with the governor declaring the day and the interstate being dedicated. But what we actually are looking for is to have each one of the individuals that perished at THICAL be recognized as a distinguished citizen of Georgia. Now, we do know that we have 3 other states involved. The 2 sisters from Florida, the veteran from Alabama, and the 2 supervisors from Texas. But they were killed here in Georgia in this emergency. And we are moving through the other cities, like Fernandina and Jacksonville will ask the state of Florida to recognize the event and declare February the 3rd on their calendar. Alabama will do the same. Texas, we're kind of working on them. But the 3 things we were asking is for the 30 individuals be recognized as distinguished citizens of Georgia, February 3rd to be forever known as Patriots and Heroes of THICAL Day, and to reconsider the naming of Harris Bluff Road as Patriots Memorial Parkway in honor of the 600 workers that travel that road back and forth from the plant. Prior to 95 being finished, that road was called Old THICAL Road. I've given Ms. Bishop a draft copy of our ideas. And we just want you all to please look them over. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Everett. Is anyone else?
Not registered.
Anyone else desiring to address the board? Seeing none, I'd like to get a motion to adjourn the regular meeting and convene an executive session for the discussion of real estate.
So moved.
Second.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. We shall return. We're gonna go back in session. Could I get a motion to adjourn the executive session and reconvene the regular meeting of the Board of Commissioners?
So moved.
Second.
All right, I believe we have some action item coming out of that. I think Mr. Reddick has it. Huh? Oh, yeah. We might as well vote on reconvening while we're here. We got a first and a second. All those in favor? We're back in the regular meeting.
Right, got a motion to surplus the following parcel IDs, parcel ID number 118E-001. Parcel ID 118E-002.
We'll give you a list.
Parcel ID 038-039. Parcel ID 082-056. Parcel ID 121-016. Parcel ID 121-016A. Parcel ID 134-001. Parcel ID 094-019R.
You made a motion to do that?
Yes.
I need a second.
Second.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor? Motion carries. All opposed? We have Commissioner Clark opposing. Amen, brother. All right. Nothing else? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn this.
We adjourn.
There you go.
Second.
You gonna vote for that one? All those in favor? All those opposed? We go. My boy over here is opposing adjourning. We'll leave you with it, big guy. But it carries and we stand adjourned. Yeah, he did. What part of him raising his hand to oppose you?